Words are about to be spoken on the extreme life of Matt Hardy, presented to you by the ad-free shows, podcast seat, and wrestling according to Alba Networks. I'm John Alba. That's the broken one, the woken one, the spoken one himself, Mr. Matt Hardy. What's going on, my man? How are you doing this insane week?
I'm doing great, man. I'm hanging here at the Hardy compound. It's been a busy couple days doing some media. TNA is in Fayetteville, North Carolina at the Crown Arena on both Friday and Saturday night. If you're in the area, you should come check it out. And this is very cool for Jeff and I because the Crown Arena, it's the old arena. There's the Crown Coliseum, the bigger building, and then the Crown Arena, which is still pretty big, but the smaller building. It's where Jeff and I first ever went to a live event of pro wrestling, and it was a WWE house show, WWF house show, and the main event, check this out, the main event was Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd. That was our first main event ever.
Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd. What's the name of the arena?
The Crown Arena in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Do you remember around what year that would have been, you think?
89-ish maybe.
All right, let's see if I can find it.
I know
it was a WWE show.
Yeah, WWE show. And then later, like NWA ran there all the time. We saw so many NWA shows there. And it's so great because Jeff has told this story over and over. And I love it so much. And I told him, and I said, dude, hit that story if you get the opportunity because it's so good. He said, when we were young and one of the first NWA shows we saw, Sting came out, right? And Sting was wearing the cool neon green jacket. He had his face painted and the cool tights and whatnot. And Jeff was coming out and Jeff touched me and looked at him and slapped his hand. And Jeff said, he made me feel so special inside. And the way he made me feel, I wanted to make other people feel like that. And Jeff has done that a million times over. And that's really an amazing story.
You said it was Big John Studd, you said?
Yes.
Huh. Looking here.
Big John Studd versus Andre the Giant.
In Fayetteville, correct?
Fayetteville, North Carolina, yeah.
Huh. I'm trying to find this match here and see what the card might have been. I'm having a hard time trying to find it here. Yeah, it's not popping up. Interesting.
Where are you at? On what site?
I'm on Cage Match, which is your favorite database for finding matches, and they have 9 matches on record between John Studd and Andre the Giant in 1989, and none of them are in Fayetteville. And the next time the previous time they wrestled before that was 1986, and there's nothing there that shows them wrestling in Fayetteville either, just in Charlotte. So that's interesting.
Yeah, they definitely did. They were on the loop. What year were they in Charlotte?
In Charlotte was 1985.
Well, that would have been before, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
It could have been as early as 88, but I would guess it was probably 89.
Okay, interesting. Not finding it, but nonetheless, I'm sure your memory's pretty good. So
yeah,
perhaps there's a missing house show.
Yeah,
on Cage Match. Everything is a lie. I'm deceived. Interesting.
I'm sure,
well, that's cool.
I'm sure if you dig up some NWA, if you cross-reference NWA with Fayetteville, North Carolina, and the Crown
that
Arena,
I can.
Yeah, I mean because too, I'm sure that's what we majorly saw there because WWE coming there was very much a rarity, and our 2 spots to go to as fans, and our dad was willing to take us, was the Crown Arena. And it had a different name back then. Actually, I wonder if that would change it because it was the Cumberland County Civic Center back then. So it might be under a different name. It has changed names since the Crown Coliseum started up. This is funny.
All right, we're spending some time here. So let's see if we can find this because I'm very Cumberland County Civic Center.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Huh. Yeah, I'm not finding anything here.
I don't know. You might have to trim this down, John.
Perhaps. Here we go. Yeah, no. There's no. That's so fascinating. There's no record of this. Maybe this happened in the multiverse. You have encompassed several different essences,
Oh yeah, but this was a reality. and I remember it being such a big deal. But the 2 venues that were our favorites to go to was the Dorton Arena which we've been blessed to
Right.
work in and wrestle a couple times, Dorton Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the Cumberland County Civic Center, which is now the Crown Arena in Fayetteville.
As Josh Henney suggests, perhaps it was deleted from the
Yeah,
database.
yeah, maybe so. Maybe it was deleted. Maybe Broken Matt Hardy got his hands on it.
Certainly so. Certainly so. Wild week. We're gonna do Ask Matt, so I don't want to spend too much time bouncing around the world and the wrestling spectrum, but there were some things that did happen across all of that stuff. On the wrestling end, we did get the ECW tribute show on NXT that I know you wanted to hit on at the 2300 Arena. That was cool seeing your boy Bubba Ray wrestle with Trick Williams. Ethan Page had his comeuppance, another one of your frenemies. It seemed like a fun time there over at the ECW Arena.
It was, and I was just with both Bubba and Devon the weekend before. We were at the Rhode Island Comic Con. Big shout out to everyone, all of the diehard supporters who came out to see Jeff and I at Rhode Island Comic Con. It was a mad weekend. It was an awesome weekend, though. But I got to spend some time with him that night. I actually had dinner. I sat down and had a full-fledged conversation with Bubba and Devon, and we kind of talked about things. And it was so cool because Bubba said, like, this opportunity, he kind of laid out a vision of kind of how he saw it, and it went very similar to kind of the picture he was painting for me. And we talked about us being at TNA and the Full Metal Mayhem match, and just how, you know, as we get older, we just have such a better grasp and understanding of what works in pro wrestling. And I was so happy to see him. I was so happy to see him on that programming, and I was very happy and very proud of Bubba for being there on NXT.
Yeah, he was in a big match on that show. They did some cool stuff. RVD showing up.
Yeah.
Francine, Dawn Marie.
Rhino.
Rhino.
Gore, which was cool.
Always love a good Rhino Gore.
Nunzio was there. Little Guido was there. Yep. Yeah, it was cool how they did those throwbacks to the ECW originals. And I like the vibe of it. In the opening of the show, I didn't see it in the beginning, and I saw our buddy Sean, SRS, he had posted it, and it was such a cool opening because it mixed some of the old clips of the original ECW entrance along with new NXT stars and stuff in that same kind of format and style. So that was really cool. But I thought it was a great show overall.
It's just so funny because you could not have two polar opposite different promotions in NXT in 2024 versus what ECW was.
Right.
But they made for a fun little marriage on this specific night. And that's cool. I'm down with that too. And yes, Bubba Ray putting on the old camouflage.
Man. I felt like we were back at Royal Rumble 2000, giving each other unprotected chair shots over the head over and over again.
See, Booker T put on the Bubba glasses.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it was a really fun show. And once again, you know, Bubba and Devon, Adam and Jay, you know, without those guys, we wouldn't have become who we are. So anytime those guys succeed, I am very, very happy to see it. Sorry, I hit that mic.
And you love the 2300 Arena too. That's where the Hardys made their return to TNA earlier this year. It is a really cool venue still.
Yeah, it is really cool. And once again, a big shout out to Ethan Page. So proud of him for betting on himself and you know, taking the opportunity to leave where he was and just put himself out there. And he ended up landing in NXT, WWE, and he's doing great for himself. He's killing it and doing very, very well. And I think he has a long ways to go. I see a very high ceiling for him in WWE.
What do you think his ceiling is?
I think his ceiling is on Raw or SmackDown as a high level guy. I think he can move up the ranks. You know, I don't know if he's going to be a guy that is that consistent main eventer, but he is such an entertaining guy. He gets it. He gets the WWE style. He gets what pro wrestling is in general, because WWE is what pro wrestling is in, you know, the biggest, broadest effect. Entertainment, you know, and then you have these guys having these amazing matches, and you're telling stories, and you have a character arc, and you're following someone. Do you love them? Do you want to see him win, or do you hate him? Do you want to see him get beat? He gets all that very well, and I think he is talented enough. I think he is athletic enough, and I think he is motivated and driven enough to go to a very high place on a main roster brand.
Josh Henney adding again, a member of Wrestling According to Alba. Thanks, Josh, for all your support and ad-free shows too. Saying Ethan doing a great job. I love to hate him. I think that's kind of the point, right?
It is, yeah.
It's kind of the point. Anything else you want to hit on in the wrestling sphere? We got so many questions to get into. I don't want to shortchange anyone.
Right. No, the one thing that I would like to say is that just if you are in this area, once again, I hit on it early, like give TNA a chance. Check it out this weekend. It's going to be an amazing show. Both myself and Jeff, we are wrestling. It is confirmed. We're wrestling on both nights. On Friday night after the show, Jeff is doing a mini concert, which is going to be interesting. You may have Joe Henry involved in that, but it's going to be a really fun, couple days with a TNA. And once again, TNA's got some great stuff going on. So I hope you give it the opportunity and check it out.
Well, if you're also in that area, you want to head on over to WrestleCade.com and check out the tickets for Night Outcade with the Hardys, stories, music, and more. Matt and I will be live at WrestleCade on Saturday night, November 30th, following the WrestleCade Super Show. And right after Matt and I go live with an edition of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, Brother Nero is going to be doing a live acoustic concert. You truly never know what's going to happen at these events. WrestleCade.com is where you can get your tickets right now. This is going to be a fantastic event. Matt and I have done several of these shows throughout the course of 2024, and we're hoping that 2025 brings even more. It's going to be a great night, won't it?
It will be a great night. And I just want to remind everyone that myself and Jeff, and also my lovely wife, Queen Rebecca is going to be there signing as well. And we're going to be meeting, greeting, and deleting. And I would imagine we're going to be signing for 6 hours, 7 hours. So if you want to get a photo op or get a signature or get some sort of memorabilia signed by myself and Jeff, try and get there as early as you can and jump in our line, because we always have busy, long days at WrestleCade, and we're super excited for it.
People underestimate how long your lines are, but he's right. They will be signing for 6-7 hours, and it will take you time to get your autograph if you wait. So get in line early for that. Then you take your time, mosey around the rest of the convention. It's going to be a great convention. There's going to be a ton of names there from the past and present, and maybe even the future too. And then you head on over WrestleCade.com, pick up your tickets for the Night Outcade with the Hardys. Going to be so much fun. Matt Hardy live podcast, Jeff Hardy live concert, Saturday night, November 30th. WrestleCade.com is where you get your tickets. We are so excited to see you there in the aftermath of Thanksgiving. All right, Matt, I want to get to some questions. So without further ado, please hit us with that Matt fact.
Matt fact: Matt is an advocate for unity.
Okay. All right. So what would you like to expand on regarding that?
Just now that we've got to this point that the election is over, the division between people, a lot of it comes from rhetoric that we see from politicians and whatnot. But now it is time for everyone to try and be united and try and get back on the same page and make things work. And I understand emotions are running high. People are unsure. Some people are excited, whatever it may be, but it's not time to brag. It's not time to crumble. It is time to unite and try to come together as one country. That is something I am an advocate for. And I feel like that's what the mature person in the room should be saying. And that's what I hope everyone else is. Today, I saw Joe Biden and he gave a bit of a speech. I thought it was a very good one. I thought Donald Trump did a pretty unifying speech whenever he did his speech towards the end of election night or whatever. And I would like to see this continue. And I don't want to see any insults or any negative rhetoric from these people. And I hope that is able to carry over to the people in this country, because I think the United States is much better when we are trying to work together. And I know that is a very tough and unrealistic goal in many ways, but I am the ultimate optimist, so that is something I'm shooting for.
Well, I appreciate your optimism. I wish that it was as cut as dry in that in my worldview. Personally, I don't believe it is as cut and dry as that as, okay, the election's behind us, now we just all join together. But I appreciate your optimism, and I don't want to turn your show into crossfire here, but I say that generally too. Your optimism is always appreciated. I just think that we are in a political climate now where politics are talking about taxes and stuff like that, whereas we then venture into territories of human rights and stuff that goes beyond inflation per se. And I think that calling for unity, while in theory is really nice, a lot of people on either side of the spectrum are going to have their lives changed significantly as a result of however things unfold. So while we do love the idea of reaching out for compromise and around the alley, I just I don't think we live in a world where that's as simple as we would hope that it could be, if that makes sense.
It's certainly not as simple as me just saying it here. I totally understand that.
You know, I love me some kumbaya. I just don't know. I just don't know how simple it will be in that sense. But yeah, let's answer some questions here, Matt. We got a lot to get into because we love doing these Ask Matt Anythings. You make sure you're following us at Matt Hardy Brand, at Matt Hardy Pod, The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy on Facebook. We love putting out calls for questions, and we love when you have some really good ones. So let's ask a fun one here from Crandon Martin, who's asked some stuff in the past, so I appreciate his support. This is a different one, Matt. On Stevie Richards' YouTube channel, he talks about Yokozuna and how he would give Banzai drops differently depending on your status in the company or whether or not he liked you. How was it for you and Jeff to be around Yoko?
Yoko was great. We were cool with the factions. You know, we were okay with the Clique. We were okay with BSK. And Jeff did take a Banzai drop from Yoko after a match with Owen. They pulled him over and Yokozuna sat on him. And the Banzai drop, Jeff said, was unbelievably, surprisingly light because he thought it was going to kill him. He said whenever he did it, it wasn't as bad. He said the worst thing was just like sitting there for the pinfall as he did it because he's just such a massive and large man. So yes, I'm sure if he was someone who enjoyed you or he liked you or he was trying to reward you for giving him a solid match or he felt like you were working hard for him, I think that Banzai drop would be a lot more friendly.
Sounds very similar to a story you told about another good oos on a very early episode of The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy with Rikishi and the Stink Faces.
Delightful. A very famous quote from The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. Yeah.
Very, very I think that's episode 2 or 3. You talking about that. Love me some good oos. Love me some good oos. Yeah. All right, let's go to Sam T himself here. Fun question to both of you guys. Favorite Ben and Jerry's flavor? Because he's got a tattoo of his on his leg, which is
okay. I would assume that Ben and Jerry's has a mint chocolate chip. That's a pretty common flavor, so that would be it. But I'll be honest, I don't eat a ton.
Never really had a big Ben and Jerry's.
Nope, not really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No,
and I'm not even a big ice cream guy.
You're not a big ice cream. I don't think I've ever seen you eat ice cream. Actually,
no, you probably won't. I mean, the only time I would eat, like my kids, you know, if they ask to go, or my wife, she'll get this craving for ice cream, want to go, and I might have a bite of theirs or whatever. But yeah, I never like sit down and eat ice cream on my own.
I would say mine is probably fish food. So it's PHISH, like the band Fish Food. Yep. It's marshmallow, caramel, and chocolate ice cream. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on.
That caramel sounds that works for me.
I put out for it. There's another show that's canon where one would even argue I'm a slut for it. So
okay, there we go.
That's
was that the Wives of Wrestling?
Yeah, that was the other canon, if you will.
Love to hear it.
Okay, let's see. Twitch Graves, what is one moment you passed on but looking back wished you didn't?
One moment that I passed on but wish that I didn't. That's an interesting question.
Whether it's something in a match, a storyline, an opportunity, anything.
Because there's not a lot of things I would pass on because I'm one of those guys, like I take what I'm given and I make the most out of it, right? I'm sure there's got to be some example of this, though.
Did you ever have a moment in a match where something was put out there by your opponent, like, hey, let's do this? And you're like, I don't know about that. And afterwards...
You know, I do have a suggestion. I don't think I've ever spoke about this. This is cool. I'm glad I'm saying it. And I didn't necessarily pass, but I said I wasn't a fan of it. So whenever they split Jeff and I, right, in 2002, and I started doing Matt Hardy version 1, the Sensei of Mattitude, this is kind of what I had planned. Whenever I first started coming out and I used the Hardy Boys music until they got me new music, which ended up being the Monster Magnet theme, Live for the Moment, I was still getting strong reactions, right? And it was one of those things like, I still think at that time WWE just like didn't fully grasp like how popular we were together, because Vince saw Jeff as the popularity of the team, but like us together was more like we're at our strongest when we're together. But there was a pitch, because Paul Heyman was also in creative too, where he wanted me to join Chavo and change my name, where I was no longer going to be Matt Hardy and have some other name, maybe even like a more Hispanic based name or something else, be something completely different.
Not Kerwin White and his caddy.
Yes. Just so I had a totally different identity, and I was like shaming that I used to be a Hardy, that it was terrible, that I didn't want to do that. And it probably, I mean, it probably would have garnered the desired effect. But I was also thinking big picture, like, hold up, but I'm like Matt Hardy, and there's a lot of equity in this name, and plus it's my real name. I do want to keep that, because I got that at this point. And then I ended up pitching the whole Matt Hardy version 1 thing. And once I started doing promos and I was super delusional and over the top, Vince actually fell in love with it. And you can tell that because he had me beat The Undertaker. You know, I had to pin The Undertaker one time. Vince told him, said, like, look, this is going to be the finish. This guy's pinning you because we're trying to build him. So that is something that was suggested towards me about changing my name and kind of the way I act and everything else, try and get everything away from all things Hardy. And I said, I'd rather not do that. I'd rather stay as Matt Hardy.
Interesting. Glad we didn't live in that universe. That's all I'll say. Saul, favorite triple threat match of all time?
My
Could
favorite
be one you're in, could be one you're not in.
Yeah, probably my favorite triple threat match that I have ever been in was in a singles capacity would be myself versus Triple H versus Jericho, just because it was the Battle of the Champions. Overall, my favorite triple threat match would be TLC 2, I guess, because it's probably our most iconic match. And even thinking back to Jeff, particularly a match I'm a big fan of too, was Jeff versus Triple H versus Edge when he won the title. That was just such an iconic moment and something I was just so proud of him for. And it took a lot of fight and a lot of battle to get to that point, but fortunately it happened.
I'll throw a great underrated one out there. I think it's one of the best in WWE history, actually, is John Cena, Seth Rollins, and Brock Lesnar, Royal Rumble 2015.
Okay, yeah,
really good match.
That was a good match. I do remember that match vaguely, but I should probably try and watch it again.
That was right before they shit all over the fans with Roman winning the Rumble and Rock being shit on by the crowd, and
right,
yeah, it got hostile. But that triple threat match is fantastic. Go anyway to watch that one. Bobby, well, hell, asking. Now, we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast where you mentioned that you entertained the idea of going to WCW, but he wants to know what would have happened if you and Jeff signed with WCW instead of WWE.
I have no idea. They had reached out to us a little. There was nowhere near as much contact as there was with WWE because we were doing enhancement work for WWE and we had a relationship with WWE, and WWE actually thought we had potential. We were closer to maybe doing something with ECW. That very much could have been a reality back in 97, 97, 98 or so, right before we signed with WWE. As far as WCW goes, we never fully got like in the loop with them, like working. And I think they were doing the power plant at that time. So that made it a little more difficult because they were trying to pull guys out of the power plant to kind of put on their main rosters more than hire outside talents. If we would have been at WCW, it would have been really interesting just to see how we fit in there. It'd been really interesting to see how we were utilized. And I think we wouldn't have went as far as we did in WWE because it was just a very, very much a scenario of right place, right time, right people with myself and Jeff, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys.
We are in the middle of tailgate season for football. I don't care if it's the NFL. I don't care if it's college football. I know you're out there. You're in the parking lots. You're eating good. You got the burgers. You got the buns. You got the chips. But do you have the whole body deodorant? Because maybe you should have that when you're sweating it out as your team is 3rd and 20 on their own 40-yard line and they're going for it and you're not exactly sure why. If you couldn't tell, I'm somewhat of a tortured New York Giants fan, but I know that even if Daniel Jones can't be an MVP, Mando's going to be an MVP. Mando is clinically proven 72-hour odor control, so it's perfect for long days at the game or at the bar watching the game. It's safe for the whole body, your pits, your package, your feet, and everywhere in between. Yes, even after those tailgate sprints to the restroom, or if it's a porta-john, I'm not sure what it is, but you're going to be in good condition because it stops odor before it starts. And Mando's available in 3 formats: invisible spray, solid stick, and yes, even invisible cream. And it comes in 4 cologne quality scents like bourbon leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, and Clover Woods. Honestly, I like the bourbon leather. I kind of feel like Ron Burgundy, a little sophisticated when I'm out there wearing that. And with our special offer from Mando, they're going to take good care of you. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code and link. Use code HARDY at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Honestly, I believe that Mando is incredibly versatile in whatever way you want to utilize it. A lot of people are out there making sure you're part of the tailgate, enjoying the game. For me, as a sportscaster, I'm at the games in a totally different role where I might be at a stadium for 8-9 hours. I need to make sure if I'm in a suit, I've got whole body odor control, and Mando helps me do that. I love the deodorant wipes because the deodorant wipes I can take anywhere with me. I can burrow in a corner if I need to and utilize them to wipe the sweat off and be ready to make sure that I am on air ready to talk about the NFL game that I have just covered or the college football game that I have just covered. And I want to help you guys feel the same way, and so does Matt Hardy. See, Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers or to secure some last-minute stocking stuffers as well. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash or the deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And we've got the code to help you get hooked on your favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off the starter pack with our exclusive code, equating to over 40% off your starter pack. Just use code HARDY at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Don't let BO keep you on the bench. Smell better naked with Mando. WCW didn't really have much of a tag scene at that time, so I don't think you would have done very well there, not by your own doing. Michael Anthony Dempsey Sr., what's your favorite venue and what's your favorite country to wrestle in?
My favorite venue, and Jeff and I, we've been talking about this nonstop all day, is Fayetteville, North Carolina, the Crown Coliseum and Crown Arena, because it is the closest venue to our house, and we know we'll be sleeping in our own bed that night. As silly as that sounds, there are some benefits that comes with wrestling locally. I'm a big fan too of the venue in Raleigh, obviously the big venue there that has changed names several times. I'm not even sure what the current name of it is, but probably my favorite venue to go to, especially earlier on back in the day, I was a big fan of Seattle because Seattle had a hold on me, and that started from the Seattle Supersonics and the logo of their team,
the grunge scene,
and the grunge scene, and the Space Needle, and it had a hold on me. It really did. I was obsessed with it, right? And then once we went out there and wrestled, myself and Jeff, we went to the Space Needle. We went out, we had lunch, we had clam chowder, and that kind of became like our ritual. Every time we would go to Seattle, we'd go up in the Space Needle and we'd have clam chowder. But then just going to Seattle was just such a cool vibe. And, we knew that was a big grunge town. That was Nirvana and just so many great alternative bands that we were fans that were from there. So we always loved going to Seattle. As far as going internationally, there's just so many places that are so beautiful. Singapore stands out. I mean, Singapore has the most amazing airport in the world. Anyone who is hearing me speak of this knows what I'm talking about. It's insane how crazy it is. And just it was a very cool vibe wrestling in Singapore. And Japan always has a special place in my heart. I was a fan of a lot of Japanese wrestling, and I knew like Japan was kind of like a standard. It was a certain measure of how great you were if you can make it to Japan. Just being able to participate in Japan was very cool.
Was there a particular venue in Japan that you liked?
I don't know. Not really. I don't. I mean, I've wrestled in the majority of the bigger ones, and some of the main ones. But yeah, there's not necessarily one particular venue.
Gotcha.
It was also a big deal to wrestle in MSG because we were able to obtain that gold pretty early on. We were still wearing tights, right? We weren't on every loop of the house shows, but we were on like maybe our third loop. There was an MSG show, and we got to go to MSG. We're like, oh my god, we're going to the Mecca. We're going to MSG. This is amazing. This is incredible. And then we get there, and then like when you travel into New York, and traffic was insane. And you're driving like the very first time I went through the Lincoln Tunnel, it was me, Jeff Sky Too Hottie, and I was driving. When we came out on the other side, I thought I was in a different universe. I was like, what is going on here? Like, the cabs were like pulling in front of you. If you didn't slam on the brakes, it would smash. It was just crazy. But like we came into New York, we had to MSG, and we're like, oh, where do we park? There's no parking in the building. You park across the street. You paid $60 to park, whatever. There's 1,000 fans to get through. The dressing rooms were tiny, especially back in the day, the dressing rooms we had. And everything was just so tough to get there and be at the venue and perform, just being in especially if you're driving, in NYC. And we did it, and it was great. And I remember it's so funny because the next few times we went, each time I feel like more and more we're like, oh, we got to go to MSG again. You know what I mean? We loved it. Like it was such a bucket list thing. And then we're like, oh God, it's just
Wrestling there is cool, but everything else that came with it was not very appealing. Right. I got you.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you bring up the grunge stuff. I sent you a great meme earlier this week. This that came across my radar from 90s WWE. For any of you watching on Matt's YouTube, it says Mick Foley and the Hardy Boys, and it's just Nirvana. So
that's it. That's a very rare unreleased picture of when we helped host the Three Faces of Foley VHS tape.
Oh, I see. That's great. I love that so much. That's what a great era of music, and that's cool. You said Seattle.
Incredible.
Seattle's a real cool place. Alyssa, what's your favorite season and why?
My favorite season is summer. That still hasn't changed. I love the fact that I can go outside. I can walk around with shorts on, and that's it. And if I want to go jump into the pool, I can do it. It's just I'm okay with it. I haven't gotten to that age where heat bothers me yet. I would rather it be too hot than too cold. So I'm still going to roll with summer. It is nice when you have the spring days and the temperatures are mild, and also these fall days where it's mild. It was super mild the last couple of days, and those days are nice though. But it's a very famous Matt fact. Matt is not a fan of winter. Winter is not my thing.
Gonzalo, what's one move that doesn't look painful but it is, and who gave it to you? You just talked about how the Banzai drop, according to Jeff, wasn't that bad.
Yeah, no,
So
I mean,
what's one that did look bad, or that was bad?
It could change, but it definitely altered. Let me think in something that could be bad. Because I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's some really historic moves that just hit or miss. I mean, one thing that I've never taken, but I've heard so many stories from so many different guys, especially older guys in the business, was Stan Hansen's lariat, right? Because Stan Hansen would swing so hard, but Stan Hansen couldn't see good. His vision was really poor. It was really terrible. And sometimes he would hit you and everything is all good, especially if you bump and you absorb it. But if he hit you in the face and you didn't bump in time, he would like break your nose or shatter your orbital bone, whatever it may be. And maybe that could even I might could even go a step further from there and go to a guy who took that from him, and that being JBL. JBL's clothesline, I can't tell you how many times I have taken that over the years, the clothesline from hell. And if you bump right for it, it's okay. If you try and like sit in there strong and absorb it in a strong style, he will break your face.
What, hypothetically speaking, what might it sound like if you were to be putting a match together with him and he pitches using the clothesline from hell as the finisher?
What would it sound like?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll do that clothesline from hell, and then the match will be over. He said, and I can head to the next town and have a cold beer, and it'll be outstanding.
That's what I thought. Let's keep going here. Phil asking, worst wrestling injury you ever suffered?
It's tough, but just because there's been, several things that have been very frustrating. In 2004, whenever I tore my ACL completely, and I messed up. My meniscus was torn real bad. At that point, when they did the first scope on my meniscus, they scoped out about 60% of it in my left knee. And I worked with that to get through that angle with Kane for probably 6 weeks or so, just with a brace, with a torn ACL and my meniscus. Like sometimes it would get caught in my knee, and I just tried to get through and finish that and be able to be written off TV in the right way. And it's weird because I did that weird story with Kane, and it kind of had momentum, and it was one of Vince's babies, so he loved it. So I was on TV getting plenty of TV time. But whenever it was in Yuma, Arizona, at a house show, is whenever my ACL completely went and tore. And that was very painful, especially working with that. I got a badass brace, but it was still painful the whole while. There was a point where my hand was broke, and I was just worn down from just working for so many years and never having a long period of time to take off. And Kofi Kingston had given me a crossbody off the top. I was in a 3-way match, myself, Kofi, and MVP. And whenever he landed on me, my abdominal wall split, and like my intestines came out, and it was almost like a hernia, but there was a weak spot in my abdominal wall. And then I had a broke hand, and I was so just worn down and fatigued, my body, and needed time off to heal. So that was obviously extremely painful, because it felt like someone took a hot knife and stabbed me in the stomach and then like ripped my stomach open whenever that injury happened. It was awful. So those are the most painful two that I can think of.
Here's an interesting question here. This is from John on the X. Do you remember doing a Halloween costume contest near Fort Bragg around 2008? You guys hung out with me and a buddy after we returned from Iraq. Hung out for an hour or so just talking shit, and then you took your masks off and revealed who you were. Does this strike any recollection for you? Fort Bragg, 2008. I would imagine WWE would have had to been doing a loop there.
Yeah, it doesn't off the top of my head. I mean, that's not some memory that stands out to me, but it's fun. I could have been, in theory, in 2008. That was very much a single mat time. If we had been down there, I guess it is a possibility that myself and Jeff could have shown up somewhere, and maybe we were wearing the Halloween costume just so we didn't get recognized or whatever. And towards the so that doesn't jump out to me as a very memorable, indelible story. But I don't know, 2008, anything's possible.
I just want to know what Halloween costume you were wearing more than anything. Truthfully, that sounds like a good time,
right?
CM Punk fan, hey Matt, do you think Tony should have let Darby Allin win the World Heavyweight Championship at Grand Slam, because the invasion angle in pro wrestling has never worked since the NWO?
I don't know. I think Jon Moxley is probably the most secure choice, especially for the one to end Bryan Danielson's career and to carry the title right now. And as far as that invasion story, when they're part of AEW, I don't know. It's tricky. It becomes tricky, and sometimes it can be confusing in some ways. Like, if these guys are outsiders, why do they keep allowing them in? And I don't know. It all depends on their execution and how they follow through with this, and it's going to depend if they have some sort of creative way to navigate this story to get into some sort of scenario where you can get a finish that is going to be a good payoff for everyone watching.
Do you think Darby Allin is a future world champion?
That wouldn't surprise me. I got to see Darby Allin this weekend too. He was in Providence, Rhode Island, and Jeff and I, we sat down and caught up with him for a long time. He was still telling us he's still climbing Mount Rushmore. He's doing it in 2025 now, and he's got a cool deal he's doing in Poland, where he does these ice baths and runs around in shorts and ice and snow. And he invited us, and I was like, oh, that's cool. He knows we're both big ice bath, cold plunge guys, but I got lots of love for Darby. I think Darby is a tremendous person. He's so different, and he's so reminiscent of Jeff. He lives in his own universe, and I'm so envious of those guys that can do that. He lives in his own universe. But as far as him being a world champion, him being an OG, an original, and he does so many things that are so different and spectacular and such a risk taker, I certainly wouldn't rule that out. I could see Tony Khan pulling the trigger on Darby Allin winning the big one at some point.
At Glenn_Coco, if you had a choice to debut now with how the wrestling business is now with contracts and how much money there is now, would you have preferred to do that, or would you have started when you and Jeff did actually start? So I guess the question here more or less is, you guys came in at the right time where wrestling was at its absolute hottest in terms of mainstream popularity.
Mm-hmm.
But now if you broke in, you would have made more guaranteed money out of the gate. So do you have a preference on when you would have broken in?
I don't know. Just looking back in hindsight, it's we learned so many valuable lessons, making so many towns, driving so many miles, and it was a very humbling experience. And I think it kind of helped shape the people that myself and Jeff would become, especially with how we're so grateful for the pro wrestling industry. So I don't know if I would even want to change that. It's interesting. There were times where we got frustrated and we're like, we're never going to do this. Like maybe we should listen to our dad and go take the civil service test and be mailmen. But we followed through and we were resilient. We refused to quit and we kept pushing forward with our chin up. So I think I would just have stuck to doing it the original way, because I can't imagine a much better path than what we ultimately ended up doing. Even if you came in at the beginning for some large guaranteed amount of a contract or whatever, how do you know you are prepared for that if you haven't that preparation before? We had 5-6 years to prepare for those moments, to be ready when we're in WWE, and like how to act in front of the locker room and how to be confident in what you're doing. It's just it's a different thing if you don't have that experience beforehand, because at the end of the day, like, experience is king in pro wrestling.
Got a question from Josh. Has the collection behind you grown recently?
Good old Josh. I love me some Josh Haney. It has. And the reason the collection behind me has grown is because my wife just started putting out Christmas trees. And yes, we have 8 or 9 Christmas trees in this house, almost in, all of the major rooms.
As is normal.
As is normal here anyway, in the alternative universe of the broken universe, the Hardy compound. But this one is a Christmas tree. I know it looks like Pokemon plushies, but actually it is in the shape and form of a Christmas tree. And she just put this one out last night, actually.
Do you have a favorite Pokemon?
I guess I'm gonna have to say Eevee, just because we have a little Eevee too.
That's true. Good point, man. When I was a kid, it's impossible. Like, if you were not a child of the late 90s, it's
Right.
impossible to really put into perspective how big Pokemon was
Right.
when it launched. It was insane.
Yeah.
And I think I've got a stash of cards somewhere still. Maybe I'll have to put that out on the open market and see.
There we go.
Or if your wife just heard me say that, perhaps I have to send a express order down there by the end of the day.
If the boys heard you say that, you may have to send an express order to them. These guys, I'm going to tell you this. My kids are too much. Like, anytime we're in Southern Pines and it's Teen Boy, Woofy especially, he goes, "Hey, we're doing this easy, but can we go by Stink Stop," which is what Evie called GameStop one time, and they kind of call that Stink Stop now. It's still funny, she just messed up the name. And they go, "Hey, can we go by Stink Stop?" And I go, "Why?" And Woofy goes like, "I don't know, just to kind of see what's there." Every time that happens, if I do allow them to go by there, I come out with $100 less than I had going in every single time. You know what I mean? Because the people know it's there. They know my wife. She pre-orders a lot of stuff, but they love that. They're obsessed with the whole Pokemon and the Pokemon culture and playing the game too.
You know what? Give them something to have fun with and take their mind off things with. I'm all about that. Yeah. Am I going to be seeing the whole crew at WrestleCade?
I hope so. We're shooting for the whole crew. I know Evie's going to be there with Rabbi, so everybody wants to go. So she might feel like she's a little overwhelmed, but I mean, I said sit a couple of them by me, and I'll keep them here with me and Jeff, and we'll keep them in line.
I think one of the most amazing things about going to a game, a concert, an event, whatever it may be, is having that shared experience with the people around you. There's just nothing quite like it, honestly. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to that special event even easier than before. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I was just looking at New York Giants tickets. For some reason, I'd like to torture myself, and I clicked through the Game Time Picks selection. It's very easy. You open the app, you go to Game Time Picks, and right away popped up the super deal, which gave me $55 off lower bowl tickets. That is fantastic for an NFL game. All you have to do is select it, your tickets pop right up, You can check out almost immediately, plus with a view from your seat to know exactly how good that view is going to be. And 1, 2, 3, you are there, headed to MetLife Stadium or whatever stadium you choose to go to attend whatever event you go to. Speaking of that view from your seat, I absolutely love the view from your seat feature because a lot of times you're going in blind when you're going to a show. Sometimes you've never been to the venue before. Sometimes the venue seating has changed from the last event you went to. So view from your seat allows you to get an actual picture of what is ahead and what you can look forward to when you arrive at your seat. And with their lowest price guarantee, Game Time's going to credit you 110% of the difference if you find pricing elsewhere that suits you better. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry with Game Time's ticket coverage. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Use the Game Time picks, curation that makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and anything else. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code HARDY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code HARDY, that's HARDY, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. I know Big Money Maxwell last year, or this year at WrestleCon, where he makes $700 off of his crystals that he's selling. And I buy him and Evie a treat from the vending machine. He goes, well, how much money can I give you? I feel bad. I can pay you back. I said it's okay. Save your money, Big Money Maxwell.
Yeah. He's a sweetheart too, and that's something else Wolfie does. If we're heading to GameStop, Wolfie will say that he'll bring a lunchbox with me. Say, hey, I brought my money. You know, like if he has been to an appearance and he like puts everything in this lunchbox and he keeps it. He's like, hey, I brought my money, and he's so funny because he'll take like $4 and go, here you go. This is a tip for you. He's buying something just as they check him out. He goes, this is a tip for you. Just like he's a baller, you know what I mean?
Well, speaking of King Maxwell, Biz Cliz for life. When is the rematch between King Maxwell and Disco Inferno?
There you have it. I could see that probably in the next 9 to 10 years, as he's pushing once he's legal. He said, next time I'm facing this guy, this Disco Inferno guy, he said, I'm going in fully prepared. He said, there's not going to be any smoke and mirrors in this one. This is going to be a legit straight up match. So we shall see.
I'm about it. Let's go. Let's have King Maxwell absolutely shovel Disco Inferno and how that one will go. Here's a good question. Jonas, who do you think has the best and worst takes or opinions in wrestling and or wrestling media?
Oh boy.
Let's hear what you got.
That's a very stat question too.
Okay, well, let's start with who you enjoy. Who do you think is a smart mind in the wrestling media space?
I think when it comes to wrestling and being fair, I think for younger guys, I do think Sean is very fair. I think he's very good. He follows through with the stories. He does his homework. I think he kind of gets the concept behind wrestling too. You know what I mean? From a business perspective. So I do enjoy his stuff. I think he's a pretty solid reporter. And I think his takes are usually pretty solid.
I know you see a lot of takes out there.
I mean, there are a lot of takes. I mean, there's, just when people start talking about things that they don't know about, that they don't really have any idea about, that's just, I don't know. It's just like embarrassing. There was one Matt fact, and I think you'd asked me, and I said, like, Matt fact, Matt doesn't speak until he has the facts. And that's something I'm like a big stickler for, until I know, I'm not going to comment on things that I don't know what is going on. And just, I see so many people do that when it comes to pro wrestling. And it's just, it is what it is. I guess they're living their best life and they feel empowered because they have a little bit of a platform and they can throw it out there. But I think that happens a little too much online.
Well, do they have to have done it to be able to give an informed opinion? Because I think there are a lot of voices out there who have, maybe they've never stepped in a ring, but they've studied wrestling at a very intricate level through all their years of watching. They like to dig deep and are very familiar with wrestling history. And I think they offer some really great opinions and great thoughts. Someone I always talk about, I know he can be a lot sometimes on social media, but I think Ibu from Wrestle Purists is one of the smartest wrestling minds that I've read in the circle. And yeah, some of his takes are fun, but or a little aggressive at times. But he's so informed, and I think he's very nuanced in how he talks about wrestling, even though he's never stepped in a ring.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I'm not gonna dislike someone because they haven't necessarily stepped foot in a ring or participated in the business. But I think if you've participated in the business and you actually have dealt with the inner workings and like hand in hand of what's going on, I think it gives you such an advantage in so many ways. With that being said, I mean, I'm okay if someone has watched things, if they have studied things, and they have done their best to like genuinely try and understand what is going on in the most realistic way. Like I don't mind if anyone gives those takes, and sometimes there are good takes that people have, that I'll see and I'll go, oh, okay, yeah, that's a really solid point, a solid issue. Like once again, as you know, I am the most open-minded person you could probably speak with in many, many ways. So yeah, I don't mind that, but I do think it is very beneficial if you have experienced, because at the end of the day, like experience is king.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I will watch something and we'll have two extremely different takes on the very chemical makeup of it and whether or not something worked or didn't work. And I do think that makes for good discourse. Is there
Sure.
anyone out there? I know you don't like burying anyone, so I expect you to take the high road. But is there anyone out there that you're like, not a fan of their takes, or they have bad takes?
Yeah, I'm at that
No.
point in my life where I'm too old to bury
Oh,
anybody. I don't have anything bad to say about anybody.
okay. Well, I figured that was going to be the case, but
And
I
and
had
and
to ask.
one thing, I'll just say this as a more generalized, broad statement. There is a pocket or a bubble of fans which are very smart because they have followed wrestling, but a lot of that's online. But sometimes they don't align with what is best for business from what I think, like from a casual perspective. And obviously, this is a thing that we have a lot. I think those people. I think if you open up your mind and you try and think a little more about what like this casual viewer may be that doesn't think about the inner workings of wrestling, they're just watching it for the entertainment value and aspect. I think that could help some people level out and be more understanding and just be able to have a take and not be one-sided. I think they could see it from, if they could try and see it from both sides, it would help out.
Yeah, but grifting and being loud gets you so much more traction these days. So,
Well, I mean, you're not wrong with that.
our podcast could be number one in the world if you just started grifting. Maybe you should think about it.
All right.
Just start thinking about it, okay?
Who should we base that upon?
I don't want to go into that territory.
I
I've
knew
noticed
I knew you were going to plead the fifth on that one for sure.
there are some people in the wrestling spectrum who I've really enjoyed for most of my adult life who in the past couple years have just decided to go full grift. And I'm not even speaking of anyone in particular. I can think of 5 or 6 names. And it's sad, but unfortunately engagement is all that matters now. It is all that matters. It's just saying something to get engagement out of it. And I hate that. I hate that so much. It's not just wrestling. It's in sports too. It's ever since the whole
Sure.
Stephen A. Smith first take model took off. It's just like hot take, hot take, hot take. And that's why I kind of like our podcast is a little more analytical and getting in the
Yep.
weeds of things. So
And you're right, that engagement that runs wild on social media all over on all platforms.
it's just so much bad faith. Like when I love when I'll see an account that's like OG Bloodline fan 364, and it's like, is it time for us to admit that Cody Rhodes isn't over? Question mark. And then like the thinking emoji, and I'm like, what? What are we doing here? But they know that tweet's going to blow off and get engagement, so that's all they care about. That's all they care about. Bobby saying, "Well, hell, good afternoon, everyone." Bobby, we answered your question earlier, so make sure you
Well, hell, Bobby.
make sure you go check that out if you haven't done so already. Jody, will Attitude Mondays ever come back? I missed that song. You want to at least give her the song?
Yeah, it's just another Attitude Monday. Oh, it is our fun day. Oh,
Whoa.
not Not Fan Friday, oh, it's just another Mattitude Monday. So that was a bit when Rebby had that Twitch channel up and running, and she hasn't been doing that a lot because, she's a big social media influencer now. But I would do stuff on there, and there was a silly little song that I would sing, Mattitude Monday, and I would change a couple of the lyrics on the third verse, I think. But I don't know. I don't know if you'll be seeing Mattitude Monday come back anytime soon.
Okay. Ben, what in your mind is the most nonsensical wrestling move or spot that you can think of?
The overdrive.
Why?
Where they pick the guys up and they put his head underneath his leg and they do like a little thing. It's like real short. It's like one of my least favorite moves. And that's more of a personal thing. That is my opinion. I just,
why is that the most nonsensical?
Just because I don't think it makes sense. I don't think with what you're doing, like, would knock anyone out. It seems super complicated, like it's going to do something, but I don't see where it would do any damage to the person. So that would be mine. It's just,
More
it's a
so
move.
than the people's elbow or anything like that.
It's a move that's fancy. Well, the people's elbow wouldn't necessarily do as much damage, but the people's elbow was like always super over, and Rock got it established.
This is not asking what's not over. It's just,
of course, but once Rock established it and he got it over, it became so strong that it was his finish. So that's fine. That's fine. I could see a debate for that. That makes sense.
You can argue that an Irish whip is the most nonsensical.
Yeah.
If I were to take you and be like, you go run into that corner and keep running, like, that's pretty nonsensical.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, and that's a statement that myself and Jeff will go back to when somebody thinks about, like, well, we really need to portray this as real. And I was like, oh, well, it's kind of like the basis of what this is built on isn't necessarily real. It is entertainment at the end of the day, especially with Irish whips, because yes, that would not be happening if that was realistic.
When you do a drop down sequence and the guy drops down and someone just hops over them and they keep running, like, if you break down what it is at its core, that's ridiculous. So yeah, that's just how I kind of perceive it to be. Absolutely ridiculous. But
I mean, it is. I mean, at the end of the day, pro wrestling is pretty absurd, and once again, that's why I constantly remind people it's entertainment. Like, some people take it a little too serious, and if you're out there shooting people into the ropes and doing drop downs, and I mean, you're obviously not taking it too serious. You know what I mean? If you wanted to be like a serious product, straightforward, all ahead, that there's no hokey nonsense with it, then you're doing it like a UFC fight.
Melanie, question that's going to be very tough for you. Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul?
Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad.
Why is that?
It holds a special place in my heart because right from the jump, I love Breaking Bad. It became one of my favorite TV shows. I would still probably list it as my favorite TV show of all time. It was just so well written. It was so well done. The characters were so engaging. I was so connected to the characters as they were going along, and I enjoyed Better Call Saul the whole while. But once again, just once you took out, just mainstays of Walter White, Heisenberg, and took out the mainstays of Jesse Pinkman, it holds a special place in my heart, and I liked it better than Better Call Saul. They were both excellent, but Breaking Bad is my favorite.
Who's the best character of all those?
I am huge in Breaking Bad. My favorite two characters were probably Walter White. I thought he was done well. I thought Bryan Cranston killed it in every single capacity he was written for, in such a great manner. And the way they kept his character, where you understand his motivations, why he's doing what he's doing when he's a piece of shit, but then you see him like there's still something decent in him, and it was great how they finished it. Like, there was still a redeeming quality about him. And then Gus Fring. I'm such a huge Gus Fring fan. Like, I love him through and through and through.
One of your boys, The Answer, Josh Breezy. When you were running Omega, what was your favorite match, and could you run it back again in 2024? If you could, what would you change?
That's a great question. I think maybe my favorite match as a singles was myself versus Willow in a 2 out of 3 falls. And it was the deal where I put the title on the line versus Willow's mask. And there were some things in the match that I wish could have been better. We did some crazy cool spots though, but just the emotional investment that the crowd of 300 people or 350, whatever it was that was in that National Guard armory, when Jeff took off his mask and it turned out to be him. And I'd been being warned about this the whole while from my partner Venom, who was Jason Arndt, and he was slowly turning heel because of this. That was probably my favorite match to that time as a singles. And then my favorite match overall was the very last match that we had in January of 1999. It was the last show we did on Indies before we were on the road full time and they wouldn't let us do Indies anymore. And that was myself and Jeff versus Shane Helms and Mike Howell from Wendell High, where they went to high school at, or where Shane went to high school at. And it was the Serial Thrillers versus the Hardys. And we came in as heels.
Yes.
We played the big shots that were big WWE superstars like these. We drew.
You were the Young Bucks in their current form.
We were the Young Bucks. We drew about 1,200 people, and the crowd was just electric all the way through. And then we ended up Shane and Mike, the Serial Thrillers. They beat us for the titles, and they were the champions in Omega. And we were off to McMahon land.
Let's finish with two more here. We got our boy wrestling historian. Any bad fight stories, whether it involves you or someone else you were around? Do you ever remember there being any bad locker room fights that you saw in person or anything that you can share?
Yeah, a wrestling historian. Big fan of his guy. This guy keeps me. This guy is my primary source of information when I post something that says X amount of years ago, says the net. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, I do have a story. This was probably from 1995-ish. Could even been 1996-ish. Myself and Jeff, we were in North Carolina and we were booked on a show that was it was at a speedway, like a motorcycle speedway. It was kind of a biker event to a degree, and we were wrestling these two guys that were bikers. And it was probably 96 because we had done some tag team stuff at WWE, and we had a little bit of a name, and people liked us a little bit considering we were young guys, but we were on WWE TV once in a while. And Jeff and I were wrestling these guys, right? And there was a point in this match where we were kind of like figuring out what we're going to do a little bit. And they said, "Oh, brother, we're real big guys. If you want to dive out on us, feel free to. And Jeff actually said, "I'd rather not. I'd probably rather just do like what we call the house show dive, where he just dives out sideways on him and he could like hit his feet if he had to, because the ground was super hard. It was like packed clay and it felt like concrete. And there was no mats out there." And that guy said, "Oh, brother," he said, "look at us." He said, "We're both 300 plus pounds. We can catch you easy, no problem." And Jeff is just as cool as a cucumber. If you've been around him, John, you know how he is, and you know his mentality and just the way he is such a calm, cool guy. And Jeff said, "I'd rather not." "No, come on, do it." He said, "You don't trust us. Like, we've been doing this for 22 years or whatever, blah, blah, blah. We got you. Go ahead and jump out." And Jeff ran, and Jeff did swanton dive out, a front flip dive. And whenever he went out, this guy totally sidestepped him with his arm, and Jeff crashed and hit the mat. And I'll never forget, Jeff no-sold it. I know it hurt him. He's like, "Ow!" And Jeff got up and totally no-sold it and went and kicked that guy in the ribs as hard as I've ever seen him hit anybody in his life, because he was so angry. And then Jeff rolled in the ring and said, "What the fuck?" And there's this cursing going on back and forth. And he gets in the ring. He says, "All right." He said, "You done now? Come on, boy. Come on." He said, "You want to go? You want to see what real is? You want to see what real is?" And Jeff says, "Are you a professional? Are you a professional? Are you a professional?" And he says, come on, boy." And then Jeff goes and tags me in. And I go, "Okay." So then in there, I'm talking to this guy. I said, "Look, man, like I don't have any beef with you. I haven't done anything to you." And this was right at the beginning of the match. I said, "We're here." I said, "Like we can do this professionally and just kind of move past it, whatever." Like, there's a couple mistakes made just then, and we circle around, and that guy comes in and he swings as hard as he can to me, but fortunately, obviously, it was choreographed because he was a slower guy. And I ducked underneath, and I grabbed him from behind and had his arms, and Jeff came in and kicked him in the head as hard as I have ever seen Jeff like drop kick someone, where he like specifically caught him right in the side of the jaw and knocked the guy out.
For those of you watching, I know Matt froze, but yeah. So he knocks him out cold, and then what? You just pin him 1, 2, 3 just to get out?
No, he knocks him out cold, and then the promoter starts coming to the ring, and some of the other people come to the ring, and Shane Helms was on the show, and Shane Helms came out, and I saw him looking at us, and he had a wrench in his hand, and he had our backs, whatever, like in case there became a fallout or whatever, and then we ended up just ending the match right there, and that was it.
Just calling the match and getting out of Dodge.
Yeah, we just left, and the promoter gave us our money. He said, "Just get the fuck out of here! Just get out of here! Just get out of here! I don't want anything to happen." And we did. We got our money and left in our gear.
Holy Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
that's very un-Jeff Hardy-like.
Oh yeah. I mean, because he told him, he said, yeah, I'd rather not do that. I'd rather not do that. And then he came out and he said it hurt him so bad. It hurt him so bad. And he came up, and whenever he kicked that guy, he lifted this 320-pound guy off the mat whenever he kicked him so hard in the ribs. And it was so great because the guy came in, he said, Jeff saying, are you a professional? Are you a professional? Are you a professional? And they're circling around. He says, I'm going to kill you, boy. I'm going to kill you. Come on, I'm going to kill you. And then Jeff goes, and I go, and Jeff just got out of the ring and went to the floor. I go, okay, let the architect come in here and try and calm everybody down a little bit.
What a rib. I'm gonna have to ask Jeff about this next time. That's a great story.
Oh yeah.
Oh goodness. All right, let's get to the last one here. Jeffrey, outside of North Kakalaki, if you could pick the building and city that you and Jeff eventually have your final tag match, where would you like it to be and why? So I know you would probably say North Carolina.
Yeah.
But he's saying outside of North Carolina.
Yeah.
Any city, any venue. You could pick Orlando and Camping World Stadium since that's where you had your big return. I don't care. Wherever. Where would it be?
I had 2 big returns there, actually.
Yeah, you did. That's true.
Which was pretty cool. You know, I might even go as far to say, like, I think MSG would be real cool. You know, it was going to be your last match. MSG would be pretty badass. Trying to think of places that like hold a real special place in our heart. I mean,
I know one. Rosemont Arena, Illinois, Chicago.
Yeah, Rosemont Arena is another one. That actually, that's a great answer because that was, you know, when we were first there, that's where we first got our biggest responses. That was real cool. Another one that would actually be pretty cool, which would kind of be like a full circle moment deal, is whatever the Gund Arena is now. That would be a cool deal because that was such a big deal.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
I've had a couple moments there. We had the first tag team ladder match. I won the ECW title there, so that's a venue I've got some history in.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. Good stuff. Good stuff. Great questions, everyone. And we always love doing Ask Matts. This will not be the last one we do. I assure you that. Make sure you're following us on social media at Matt Hardy Pod, The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, and Matt Hardy Brand. Of course, that's where you get your questions in. And don't forget to check us out at WrestleCade, WrestleCade.com. Night Outcade with the Hardys live. Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, followed by a live Jeff Hardy concert Saturday, November 30th. I'm coming in and out of Winston-Salem that day. Like, it's going to be rapid fire. So I want to make the most of that day. I hope to meet a bunch of Die Hardy fans there. WrestleCade.com. Get those tickets. Night Outcade with the Hardys. And of course, if you're a fan of The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy and you want to get your business out in front of thousands of listeners every single week, advertisewithhardy.com is your place to do it. Get it out in front of all the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy faithful.
And I just want to say, everyone who is coming to WrestleCade, who's coming to the Night Outcade with the Hardys, I've been told from the person who's promoting the event, ticket sales have been very busy. It's been selling very well. So make sure you get your tickets so you don't get left out, because we want you to be a part of it. It's going to be great. We're going to go on right after the Super Show on Saturday, and it's going to be an amazing time. Myself and John, we're going to throw a little party. Jeff's going to throw a party, and we're going to have the best time ever.
You never know who will show up at those things either. We've had some great guests over the years at these live shows. So you never know who's going to show up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Anything else you want to add, my friend?
No, man. I appreciate everybody that comes on here every single week. I meet more and more of you when I'm at conventions and cons nowadays. So many people came through Providence, Rhode Island, that said they were just loyal listeners, that every single week they tune in, they get excited, and they love our podcast, which is a great thing. I love it so much.
We got a question from someone I didn't get to today, and I'll get to it in a future one, but he talked about how he lives in Australia, but this is like his go-to podcast every week. So wherever you are in the world, we appreciate you listening to The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, and make sure you leave us how many star review, Matt Hardy? 5-star review. And that doesn't make a difference if you're in North America or South America or Australia or Europe or Asia or Africa, or even if you live in Antarctica by chance. We want your support, and please check out The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy every single week on every single continent. The words have been spoken. We'll see you next week right here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
Delete!
Making me weak. I'll fade away and classify myself as SaveWithConrad.com.
Eric Ward in Franklin, Tennessee. I first heard about Save with Conrad through a couple wrestling broadcasts I listened to. 83 Weeks and What Happened When with Tony Schiavone, and I decided to reach out, and I'm so glad that I did. It was an absolute fabulous process. I was in a transition mode, recently sold a home, and I was looking for a mortgage on a new home purchase. And Diana and the team at Supreme Lending was there to help me out. They were absolutely fabulous to work with. They were knowledgeable, responsive, and made the process incredibly smooth. And I'll tell you this, the online portal was an absolute game changer. It provided regular updates at every step, giving me full visibility into where we were at in the process. And on closing day, everything moved so fast that even my real estate agent was shocked. I'm telling you, I couldn't have been happier with the experience and would highly recommend Save with Conrad to anyone looking for a seamless mortgage process. I'm Eric Ward from Franklin, Tennessee, and I got into my dream home with SaveWithConrad.com.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender.
SaveWithConrad.com.